Welcome to another reaction. Let's do 413 animations. This might be the shortest animation yet. It is also requested, but it's a 1900 Atlantic hurricane season animation. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, so it's going to be the newer animation style, which is interesting. I do like the way it represents the graphics. Easier to read. Or is it the new one, or is it just the old one? I can't tell now. The icons are quite large. We got one in August. We got nothing early season, which averages about 1 per May, and you have about 1 point. You have about like 0.5 to 1 in May, because that's pre-season, and then you have June, which is still the pre-season, but you have around 1 average. So it's like every other year sort of averages, and then you have July, which sort of has just above or around 1. And then it obviously starts at that time. That's when the season starts, and the climatology favors tropical cyclones. But yeah, so July, no tropical cyclones here. August, we've seen like 2024 very hostile. August, MDR very hostile. So you can get these massive breaks in the August that we've observed ourselves. But yeah, just nothing here. Sometimes these records may be inaccurate because there could be subtropical storms that are not documented in the open Atlantic. So it's possible. But here, nothing until, I mean, this is very bare bones, especially if you're ever tracking an Atlantic hurricane season. Like this season's been extremely bare bones, but this is like very, very bare bones. So at this point, of course, the season still is going, but late August and Tropical Storm 1. And then now it's peak climatology, so it's already the first tropical cyclone in September. It's making several landfalls. Actually, doesn't weaken as much through Cuba, the Western Mountain region. And then we have Galveston 1. This is okay. So it begins with Galveston itself. It makes sense because it's peak climatology. SST of the Gulf. You probably could use like some sort of like ER SST V2 sort of data and try to extrapolate, but the estimation you could assume around the coastal waters, like 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. Of course, this is like sort of pre-industrial record, so you can sort of understand that it's probably not going to be as warm as the current observed, which are obviously continuous. Like 2020 is a continuous near record scale, but this is going to be at least 29, 20 to 30 degrees Celsius isotherms, at least across the whole Gulf wide, close to the coast as well. But actually, towards the coast in the previous older seasons, it actually tended to trend cooler, so you could have had like 28 degrees isotherms as well. But the Galveston hurricane is intensifying quickly, and it actually moves due west, parallels the Gulf, which is actually really interesting that it parallels the Gulf rather than moving due northerly, because most tropical cyclones don't do that, especially in the northern Gulf. You do have like things like Milton, which is the southern Gulf, Bay of Campeche, moved west-east, which is obviously very anomalous. You have Raphael, which when it dissipated, it started drifting southwest and then westwards, paralleling the Bay of Campeche, where it was weakening. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how it's sustained intensity, but it's moving due westerly. I can see how this could also potentially caught off guard Galveston, because at this point, obviously, the destruction is extreme. You've got like the storm surge, which is reaching above the barriers, so it's easily 10-foot storm surge at least, and like a huge splintered woods like everywhere. And one of the things is it displaces Galveston's port, the whole identity of the city, and then obviously this influences the way the actual infrastructure for Houston to become the major port city region. And it's still a tropical storm. So this is like Erin, 2007. It's still a tropical storm over North Texas into southern Oklahoma along the Red River right now. And it was actually a hurricane just towards the DFW as well. And now we actually have 2 of the tropical cyclones. We have an interesting case here where we have 3, which is already a hurricane south of the Cabo Verde Islands. That is Praia, which is the Cabo Verde main area, and then just to the south already. So this is I believe it's is it Fred, like 2015 or different storm, but like a hurricane towards this sort of region. Obviously, there's currently an invest which is towards this region as well, but this is pretty impressive intensification for an overall lackluster late season starts, and also generally it's been hostile and few overall names. So, but yeah, again, tropical storm still continues. still tropical depression into Kansas, almost Kansas now. This is the northern Oklahoma was towards Ponca City. It's still tropical depression now in Kansas. This was Kansas City. It's still tropical depression towards the Iowa border, towards I believe it's the Missouri River, and then here with tropical storm 4 now. We almost have 2 as a hurricane, and with 3 still tropical depression still towards Davenport, Iowa, even towards Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, and then comes extratropical finally. It's quite similar to, is it Cristobal 2020, which also had an influence on Wisconsin, the sort of Lake Michigan sort of waters, the breeze, the high seas, very influential. Obviously, one of the deadliest years on record for the Lake Erie like fatalities because of the waves. The unique geography actually creates a these deadly waves sweep people away, and on much higher seas than expected, which actually has enough force to pull people out, and many of those people obviously don't really know how to swim, so it becomes very deadly as a result. 3 actually recovers really early. 4 makes a landfall. 2, this is still peak climatology in September. This is actually the most peak of the climatology typically in a season, which actually is very evidently displayed here in this season. Of course, there's no real sort of names here, but 2 is now a major hurricane just towards east of Bermuda, almost like an indirect, like sort of a direct hit, but the eye wall was not quite close enough to Bermuda for me to that to be implied. But still, 2 major hurricanes already. 3, which is obviously very interesting. So this is already a pretty extreme season for how, I mean, the animation itself is very short, proves the point, but this is interesting. 5 is also tropical depression towards, I mean, this is definitely the new icons, but this is now moving towards Nassau, North Grand Cayman. Okay, that was looped. It's actually interesting because looped is like, it's a bit like last year we had, I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. We had the 2019 I name. I'm forgetting the name now, because you had Umberto and then you had the I name Storm, which 2019 should have been retired technically, but they still kept the name. And it sort of did not necessarily loop, but it paralleled and recurved out eastwards, which is on a very erratic track towards the Bahamas and then east. But yeah, moving loop, and now comes hurricanes. That's a very interesting track. And then 6 makes a landfall in the Big Bend region, extratropical now towards the Long Island. So this is October now as well, actually, so it's pushing a bit late now into the season. You typically see a westward retraction in the season at this point where the activity remains. We do have a late season tropical cyclone here. It's in October, almost November. It's really interesting to see the season up. You can see the stuff here as well. Like the Galveston hurricane became the deadliest natural disaster in American history, the 5th deadliest in overall, between 8,000 and 12,000 fatalities. I mean, it's very, very high fatalities, but now the highest, deadliest in the Conas. And you can see the wharf ridge front here. This is very similar to Katrina, when you had between the central part of the New Orleans area, you had one of the blocks that had a major fault in its storm barrier, and it was the one that collapsed, and initially did the exact same sort of thing as this. And you can see the elevation. The elevation is very low, and it's very flat terrain. But we have 145 miles per hour here, 125 knots. I don't know, 936 millibars. 2 as well. It's interesting. That's a very Atlantic sort of pressure wind relationship. It was interesting to see the higher pressures corresponding to this. 5 million. That's 1900, so that's going to be adjusted. Probably over 200 million, more than that, several hundred million. But interesting season nonetheless, and I'll see you in the next requested season or any animation.